Have you ever heard of a city so wealthy, so full of promise that people called it Black Wall Street? A place where black men and women, just a generation removed from slavery, built banks, ran hotels, owned planes, and dressed in silk and diamonds? This was Tulsa, Oklahoma in the early 1900s. And this is the gripping story of how a community that rose from the ashes of oppression faced the unimaginable, and still refused to die. The year was 1921. Greenwood, a district in Tulsa, was a miracle of black excellence. Doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, people who had every reason to believe they had escaped the shadows of Jim Crow. Oil money flowed through Tulsa like a river of gold, and Greenwood became a shining jewel of black prosperity. But not everyone celebrated their success. White Tulsa, still poisoned by the lie of racial superiority, looked on with envy and rage. The tension simmered quietly, like a pot ready to boil over. The spark came on May 30th, when a young black shoeshiner named Dick Rowland stepped into an elevator. Inside was a 17-year-old white elevator operator, Sarah Page. No one knows exactly what happened. Some say he tripped and accidentally brushed against her. Others whisper she screamed out of surprise. But in an America already primed for violence, facts didn't matter. By nightfall, rumors spread like wildfire. A black boy attacked a white girl. Newspapers screamed headlines of assault. A mob gathered outside the courthouse where Rowland was held, demanding blood. As darkness fell on May 31st, Greenwood's men, many of them war veterans, marched to protect Rowland, armed with rifles. White men met them with their own guns. A shot rang out. No one remembers who fired first. But that single crack of gunpowder unleashed a nightmare. What followed wasn't a riot. It was an invasion. White mobs stormed Greenwood, looting businesses, burning homes. Families fled as gunfire echoed through the streets. Women clutched babies, men shielded the elderly, all running from flames that devoured everything they'd built. Survivors would later say the sky itself seemed to bleed. Airplanes, yes, airplanes, flew overhead, dropping firebombs on black-owned buildings. The smell of smoke and fear covered the city. By dawn on June 1st, Greenwood lay in ruins. More than 35 square blocks were reduced to ash. Over 1,200 homes destroyed. Hundreds of black residents were killed, though official numbers were buried. Thousands more were rounded up and held in camps, prisoners in their own city. The so-called authorities? They didn't stop the violence. Many joined in. Insurance companies refused to pay a single dime, claiming the massacre was a riot and therefore not covered. In the eyes of the law, Greenwood's people had lost everything. This should have been the end of Black Wall Street. The power figures, white city leaders, business owners, lawmakers, believed they had crushed Greenwood forever. They thought fear and ashes would silence the survivors. But they were wrong. The people of Greenwood refused to disappear. Homeless families built tent cities on the charred ground where their homes once stood. Neighbors shared what little food they had. Churches rose again brick by brick. Despite city ordinances designed to steal their land, black lawyers fought back in court, and won. Within 5 years, Greenwood began to rebuild. By the 1930s, businesses had reopened, and the district was thriving once more. Imagine that. After watching their world burn, after burying their dead, they dared to start over. That is the power of a people who refuse to be broken. For decades, Tulsa tried to erase the massacre from history. Schools didn't teach it. Newspapers barely mentioned it. Survivors were silenced by fear and trauma. Even Dick Rowland, the young shoeshiner whose arrest ignited the horror, was quietly released. The charges were dropped because there was never any evidence of a crime. The white power structure that had destroyed Greenwood never apologized. No one was held accountable. But truth has a way of clawing its way to the surface. Decades later, descendants of survivors began to speak. Elders shared the memories they had been forced to bury, the roar of flames, the hum of airplanes, the cries of children. Historians unearthed records long hidden. Mass graves began to be discovered, silent witnesses to a century of lies. And suddenly, the story Tulsa tried to bury became impossible to ignore. The world began to see Greenwood for what it truly was, a triumph of black achievement, and a testament to the cruelty of white supremacy. Here is the great twist, the reversal of power no one expected. The same community that white Tulsa tried to destroy now stands as an unshakable symbol of resilience. Today, the name Greenwood carries weight across the globe. It inspires movements for racial justice, sparks documentaries, and fuels demands for reparations. The massacre that was meant to erase a people instead immortalized their strength. White Tulsa's hatred turned them into villains of history. But the survivors of Greenwood? They became legends. The real story of the Tulsa Race Massacre isn't only about destruction. It's about defiance. It teaches us that even when the powerful try to silence the weak, even when flames consume everything we love, the human spirit can rise again. It shows us that truth may be delayed, but it cannot be denied. The people of Greenwood were underestimated, mistreated, and nearly wiped from existence. Yet today they stand taller than those who tried to destroy them. And that is the lesson the world must remember. You can burn the buildings. You can bury the truth. But you can never kill the fight for justice. The next time someone tells you the past is gone, remember Greenwood. Remember Black Wall Street. Remember the men and women who turned tragedy into testimony. Because the real story of the Tulsa Race Massacre isn't just history. It's a warning. It's a call to action. And it's proof that the underdog, no matter how underestimated, can rise from the ashes and change the world. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel for more untold stories.